Hi students, I wanted to share with you some of my insights about the drafts that were submitted this week for Project 2. I've selected the drafts of 3 students. Whenever there's a project and I do a video like this, I select a few students. So those of you who were selected, I hope you don't mind me focusing on your work in this video. So first up on the screen right now, this happens to be Bailey Paul. You can see her name here on the screen. She submitted her draft via her Google site. And so I'm going to click through the things that she submitted. And I want to say that the 3 examples that I've chosen for today all have some really strong qualities, and that's why I've chosen them, so that when you look at your own draft and you compare them to the drafts that I'm discussing in this video, you can see what I'm expecting and what still needs to be done. First of all, Bailey included her summary statement, and you can see it's 1 paragraph long. And it summarizes. It does not offer opinion on the situation. The student chose Dove's campaign for real beauty, and the student describes what happened. So everybody needed to include the summary statement. The student also next included letter 1, which was the complaint. This letter, as you'll see, is of decent length. It takes a formal letter model, multi-paragraphs, single-spaced with spaces in between them. The student first reacts emotionally to the situation and says why the student felt that this was an offensive depiction. The student then contextualizes this advertisement within Dove's larger campaign of real beauty. The student takes on some larger social issues and uses terminologies that are familiar, and then offers a proposed solution. Take down the advertisement and issue an apology and promote a different vantage on real beauty with a new ad campaign. So the student develops all of that in this letter. The next item is the response from Kellogg's, and from that perspective, the student writes back. One thing that is really important to do that this student does, and not everybody does, and I want everybody to be sure that they do this, and it could be even more developed than it is here, but talk about the company's corporate culture, like what they value and how they even violated their own values. This is what's called a mea culpa, which means our fault. So the corporate ethos means the company's credibility. So the company needs to both establish their credibility and express that they understand how they have violated or harmed their own credibility. So there has to be an articulation on the part of the writer of this second letter to all of those things about the corporate culture and the corporate identity. So this student starts to do that. That could be developed even further. The last thing I want to show you of this student submission is a screenshot of one tweet here created from Dove Soap. And we deeply apologize for the highly insensitive advertisement, and our staff will undergo extensive sensitivity training. At Dove, we celebrate diversity and want to continue to show our support. So this is an attempt to talk about the corporate culture, what this corporate ethos is. We apologize, this needs to be spelled correctly, to all women of color for poor representation, and we are rectifying this problem. I think this might be a bit of an overreach because I'm not sure that they can quote-unquote rectify the problem, but this is definitely a good start for the social media component of this assignment. Now there need to be multiple tweets, not just one, but this student has done a really good job of starting out on that process. Okay, so I want to show you 2 other examples in this video here. Here we go. Let's see if I can move this over and minimize these other things on the screen. A picture of thank you note. There we go. Okay, so this is another student's PDF. This has the problem summary statement up here. This is about the Kellogg's example. This is really a fine summary. And then this student offers a complaint letter. I'm a longtime fan and consumer of your brand and products. However, I recently purchased a box of your corn pops and I'm absolutely appalled at the scene on the back of the box. This is a really short letter. This letter needs to be at least doubled in length. If it's going to establish sort of cultural circumstances that made the back of the box offensive, more conversation needs to be included in the letter about it. Again, the student needs to identify the problem and ask for a specific reparation to the problem. give the company some ideas for what they might be able to do. So this needs to be better developed, but it is a good, clean start. Now, this is the response from Kellogg's that the student wrote. We're sincerely sorry for the image depicted on our cereal box. I think this student needs to back up a little bit, and if they are truly writing from the persona of the company, they would have some sort of standard content at the start that said, "Thank you very much for your letter of such and such a date. We appreciate hearing from our loyal customers, and we take every complaint we receive seriously. Your complaint concerning blah, blah, blah is very important to us, and we are aware of the problem." So a paragraph that establishes the situation. Then this second, well, what is now the first paragraph, which could be the second paragraph, the student from the persona of Kellogg says, "We've been a company for a certain number of years and hold our loyal customers very close to us. The last thing we want to do is offend anyone or promote ideas of inequality." That could be much better fleshed out to establish their corporate history, their corporate culture, and how they want to represent themselves as a company. They say they've sent replacement boxes and they should be hitting shelves soon. They appreciate the feedback. I do think this could just be, in general, better developed. Now, this is the last one I'm going to show you. This one, the summary statement is in a separate document. I'm not going to show you that summary. This is from Bonnie, one of your classmates. This is a really well-developed complaint. It establishes, by using some of the rhetorical appeals, which are ethos, logos, and pathos. I already have spoken about ethos. Logos is appealing to logic, and pathos is appealing to emotion. This student's letter does a great job of appealing to emotion. The student says, "I babysit a lot of children, and I wouldn't want my kids to be looking at this and thinking that this is how it is always supposed to be. I'm a Hispanic woman, and I found this extremely offensive because of the amount of stereotyping, etc." The student develops this and really takes a personal stake in this issue, which I think is a very moving gesture and would be impactful on an audience. Then the student writes from the vantage of the company representative, establishes that they're writing in response to the new cereal box and they take the concerns seriously. They are committed to diversity and inclusion, and we don't want to offend anybody. I will say that what could happen in this letter is much more detail about what Kellogg's intends to do to respond to this phenomenon. This is all sort of very general about their corporate ethos, but what you want is a specific response that addresses the consumer's complaint. If the consumer's complaint can't be directly resolved, you make sort of general comments about what you're going to do regarding complaints like those. The student has a social media component, but this looks like just a capture of what someone else created, as opposed to the one I showed you before, which was Bailey's, which was creating the student's own social media post. That's what you need to do, and you need to create a string of them. So look at the assignment again and refresh your memory on what I want you to do in terms of the social media aspect of this. But so these are 3 examples, and I've given you some comments on them, and I hope you'll take them to heart.